Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to be making some chickpea brownies. So these are brownies and using chickpeas instead of flour, and I'm also going to put some coconut in as well and some cocoa powder just to enrich the flavour a little bit more. So I've got my oven preheating at 160 Celsius, that's 140 Celsius with a fan, 320 Fahrenheit, and I have lined with parchment paper a 9-inch tin, square tin. Now you could use an 8-inch one if that's all you've got, or 7 inches by 11 inches. It won't matter too much basically. Just the thickness will be slightly different depending on the size of pan you use. So for the ingredients, I have the chickpeas drained from a 400 gram tin. So I've drained the water off and just left them there. I have 20 grams of cocoa powder, 40 grams of desiccated coconut, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, half a teaspoon of baking powder, 2 medium eggs which I've beaten, that would be large in the USA. I have 200 grams of dark chocolate in this bowl with 100 grams of unsalted butter, and I'm going to melt those over a pan of boiling water. You could do that in the microwave if you wanted to, in very short bursts. And I will also use a quarter of a cup of maple syrup. So the first thing to do is to melt the butter and chocolate, and you don't need to see that because you know how to do that, so I'll do that and then I'll come back. Okay, so I've melted our chocolate and butter, and I'm just going to set that aside for a moment, and the next thing I'm going to do is to process these chickpeas in this little immersion blender with a processor attachment. Now some people do the whole process in a blender. I just think that's going to be very messy to clean out, so I'm going to do it like this. I'm just going to blitz these until they're all smashed up and quite smooth. So that's just about blitzed, and they break up quite easily. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that into the chocolate straight away, because that will actually help to cool the chocolate down for when I put the egg in. And then I'll mix that together. And I'm actually just pressing it against the sides. You could use a hand mixer to mix this, but I don't think it's necessary. I'm pressing it against the sides so that I can see if there's any chickpeas that's not worked in. but it will all come together quite easily. So with that, I'm then going to add in the egg, and the vanilla extract and the baking powder, and the cocoa powder. I'm going to mix that in as well. And I can also put in a quarter of a cup of maple syrup. I was going to use golden syrup, but I decided maple syrup is just a little bit more runny than golden syrup, so it will probably work well. And then I'm going to just use a whisk to mix those a little bit, I think. And finally, I'm going to add in the coconut. And that looks perfect. So the next thing to do is to put that into the prepared tin. And then we're just going to spread it out into the four corners and level it off, and it should level off by itself if we give it a bit of a shake. Just like that. And then I'm going to put that into the oven, and I'm going to bake it for between 30 and 40 minutes until a skewer in the middle comes out clean. It should still be quite moist, and that's what we want. So it would be a lovely moist brownie come cake that we can cut into squares. So I'll be back with you after I've baked it and let it cool down. Okay, well, I'm back with you, and I let the brownies cook for 40 minutes and until it felt springy on the top, when I pressed down, and a skewer in the centre was very slightly moist, and we want the brownies to be moist, so that seemed fine. I've taken them out. I let them cool down in the pan for about 20 minutes. Then I lifted the paper out and put it onto a rack, and I've now cut it into 16 pieces, and this is what they look like. So I'll actually just have a taste of it. It tastes very, very good. It's nice and moist, very chocolatey, and I can actually taste and feel the texture of the coconut as well. So I hadn't heard of chickpeas being used like this before, but it certainly works very well. And as an aside, if you're using a can of chickpeas like that, if you save the water from the can, you can actually use that to make meringues. Rather than use egg whites, you can use the water from a can of chickpeas, and I've seen videos of that being done, and they turn out to be nice and crisp and crunchy. I haven't made them. I might do it sometime. I don't need them at the moment, but that's just an aside. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, which will take you to this recipe, and I'll put a link to it as well below the video, and then I will be back with you with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.